Back. It is the Stay in the Game podcast, and I am your host, Trevor Field, physical therapist and business owner of Form and Function Physical Therapy in Rancho Cucamonga, California. And I am coming from you from the lobby of the Renaissance Hotel in Orlando, Florida. Just spent a 4-day conference dealing with a bunch of PT business owners in the private practice space, which my business is one. So pretty pumped up to bring you some information, some takeaways that I got so I can share with you how best to live your best life. So lots going on, obviously, coming from all the way across the country in this case. Business is going well. We're seeing tons and tons of new clients. The biggest thing that I'm seeing a lot in my office right now is a lot of ankle care. So fractures, fracture recovery, surgery, even simple ankle sprains, tendonitis issues. So it seems to have been the ankle month this month. So we're going to talk and dive deep a little bit with some health tips and tricks regarding some ankle issues. So stay tuned for a bit of that. But so I want to get into right away what some of these big takeaways were at this conference. So primarily for business owners, not necessarily clinical skills and things that we were going over, but I think the biggest takeaway that I got was that whether it be in business or in life, what's going on in your head is certainly guiding the outcome, guiding the results. So if you've got a bunch of head trash, negativity, the understanding is that we get what we focus on. So I've seen this over and over in my clinical practice. If you've got somebody who's completely negative, and you've probably seen people that are suffering in pain, it's hard to stay positive. It's hard to have hope when every day you're dealing with a pain or something that's keeping you very, very miserable. But ultimately, the people that I see that do very, very well, they're able to compartmentalize. They're able to take a quick pivot to actually say, hey, I'm taking these actionable steps. I'm moving forward toward the goal. In some cases, and I understand, depending on the kind of conditions that some of our clients go through, it may seem like they've got an incredible immovable mountain in front of them to get over, this obstacle in recovering from injury, surgery, disease process in some cases. But always and forever, the easiest thing to do when you're facing a mountain, literally you break it up into chunks and just move this thing one stone at a time. So small, actionable steps will be the thing that is going to get you over this hump. So I wanted to just kind of start off the podcast sharing some of those quick takeaways. I'll have a few other thoughts in regards to some of the other big takeaways and moments that I think really all of our patients can apply in their lives. But that to me is where I wanted to kick things off. So stay tuned. We've got our typical health tip and trick, some other things I want to dive deep into. So hope you enjoy the episode. Before we go forward, I always like to take a quick look back. So if you missed our last podcast episode, it was truly all about what guided pulsed electromagnetic fields were all about, or a guided PEMF. So we had recently brought in a new device called Electrons Plus, and really have been having some amazing benefits with our clients. So I want you to look back if you've wondered about PEMF, if you've never even heard of what PEMF is and how it can help you. I want you to look back at our previous podcast episode and check that out. I think it's certainly worth a listen. And literally in our clinic, we're treating things that I really never thought I would be able to treat as a practitioner, and the results have been nothing short of amazing. So go ahead and check out that last podcast episode out about Electrons Plus and guided pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. So back to the conference. There was actually a lot of fantastic speakers that were in attendance and presented. Some that many of you may have heard of, a guy named Daymond John, basically owner of FUBU, and probably more popularly known from a little television show called Shark Tank. So actually listening to a little bit of his origin story, I feel like I can take some snippets and kind of convert this into some advice for you guys. Literally, ultimately, he started his company incredibly young, and basically what he was saying is like one of the big factors to his success was certainly about his tolerance to hearing the word no, to basically being told like you're not good enough, this isn't going to happen for you, like being told that he's going to be limited, and I really want to impress upon you guys that are struggling to find solutions to your pain or injury, that you've tried something, you've been diagnosed or been given a diagnosis or a prognosis that isn't what you've wanted to hear. Like, I don't know how many times I'll give you just a simple example of a runner client of ours. We've done patient spotlights on her before, and I'd love to just bring her up and shout her out one more time. Patty Bell, phenomenal runner who's qualified for the Boston Marathon multiple times. She suffered a pretty gruesome open fracture that required intermedullary rod. She had basically a rod implanted in her tibia, and was told by her orthopedic surgeons just scrap that whole dream and of getting back and running and being competitive and being an athlete again. It's over for you. And literally, I just saw her walking through my son's school one day with a bit of a limp, and just told her, "Hey, look, I think I can help you. Let's have a look. Come down to my office, and we'll see what can happen." And not only is she back to running, she's upgraded from the marathon to actually competing in triathlon. So I want to impress upon you, like, if you've heard no, if you've been kind of given this raw deal advice where you're saying, hey, you're just relegated to being this from this point forward, or just deal with it, or, this is the new normal for you. I want you to kind of buck that trend and keep fighting and keep challenging to find solutions and find the answers. Another speaker right on that same vein was a gentleman named James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. He was somebody who competed and did something that everybody thought was impossible, a 50-50-50. He did 50 triathlons in 50 days in 50 states. Now, ultimately, when he set out on this journey, he was, seeking obviously medical advice. He didn't just run out and do this. He actually did his due diligence, spoke with doctors, and, the first set of doctors was basically telling him, you're going to die. And instead of just taking that advice and hearing that, like, taking no for an answer, he just went and found another team, a way of saying, hey, if this is going to be possible, these are the steps you're going to need to take. So I encourage you, again, like, literally, if somebody's been slamming the door in your face saying this is how your life is going to be, you're being limited by these things, like, I challenge you to continue to strive and work and dig deep, to keep fighting, to find the people who are going to say yes, who are going to say, let's give it a go. Let's try. Let's see what happens. Because literally there's only one way to guarantee failure, and it's to stop trying. So if you've been dealing with things for a long period of time and you're just, suffering with, something that you're dealing with, dig deep. And literally, if it isn't you, but somebody who's going through something like this, share this podcast. You don't know whose life you're going to save by doing so. So I really want to impress upon you the importance of these messages I'm sharing with you in this podcast today. And I know it's probably a little different from the messages I put out in my previous podcasts, but, it really struck me with some of the speakers that, our reach and how we can touch and help people is kind of everything. So if we can, in this community, share some of this information, and if it helps one person, it was worth the time that we put into doing it. So appreciate you guys sharing this out. So literally help a friend. If it's you, don't stop. Get after it. Don't give up. All right, rant over. Back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. So I wanted to talk to you guys about the product of the month. And wanted to talk to you guys again about Joint Nutra Care, Formulas 1 and 2. I have some exciting news about it as well. We're really, we've been busy beavers in the office and really focusing on getting an online marketplace for you guys to be able to get easier access to purchase the Joint Nutra Care while Obviously, there's an expense involved. We're doing our best to make it as convenient for you to get access while simultaneously trying to keep it as affordable as we possibly can. So we've been working with the manufacturer, the creator of these products, and really want to see it get out into your hands. And if you're like, what in the world is Joint NutraCare Formula 1 and 2? Well, let me tell you, Formula 1 is basically a great joint support formula. We have your collagens type 1, 2, 5, and 10, so a very full spectrum collagen to be the building blocks to assist in your connective tissue and ligament, tendon, and cartilage support. You've got hyaluronic acid, which binds water molecules to connective tissue, and why that's important, particularly in your joints, is there's something that occurs during aging. When you get 30 plus, a process of drying out occurs in your tissue, something called desiccation, which is why things like wrinkles appear. Well, hyaluronic acid is used not only in the cosmetic industry, but it's used in joint support. So hyaluronic acid is also used by orthopedic surgeons to actually direct inject into joints to assist in cushioning the joint. So instead of us using a needle or a practitioner using a needle to inject this hyaluronic acid, why not just do it through the gut? Why not ingest these things? It can assist, as I said, in just cushioning the joint. So what if I'm bone on bone? Well, literally what surfaces are available? If we can provide any type of cushion, if your cushion is gone, the natural cartilage cushion, then we've got to try to find anything to give you some support and cushioning. And if it's fluid, fantastic, let's do that. You've got MSM, that's sulfur, which is also joint sparing, olive leaf extract, which hydroxytyrosol has incredible antioxidant components to assist with inflammation and tissue health. And then over at Formula 2, it's a very naturopathic, anti-inflammatory, high-dose antioxidant. So things like astaxanthin, which is 6,000 times more potent than vitamin C as an antioxidant, is critical in getting you through inflammation. Now, when I say getting you through, it's like that's the important kind of word choice, because when we take NSAIDs, Motrin, Advil, ibuprofen, these types of components, basically its job is to block the inflammation cycle. But the inflammation gets a bad rap. It's a marker, a chemical marker on your tissue for your body to heal and remodel that tissue. So if I've blocked it 4 hours, I don't have those chemical indicators that there's pain, so I feel better, but I'm really not healing at my optimum. So we need to find a more naturopathic approach to get you through to the other side of this inflammation to assist with healing without interfering with it. So as I said, things like Joint NutraCare Formula 2 can be those components. What I'm looking at is not only the antioxidant support side of things, but having things like bromelain and papain, which are proteolytic enzymes. And the importance of these things is they break down fibrin, and fibrin is kind of that stickiness that occurs with inflammation. It causes joints to become stiff, tissue to become shortened, just restricts your movement. So when there's pain and restriction in your joint movement, you absolutely have to have things like this to assist in your recovery. Tons of other components that I could certainly get into, and I may certainly podcast and do a deep dive into Joint NutraCare, which I feel like I need to after bashing you over the head with that information. But it's our product of the month, and for the month, the great news is Joint NutraCare Formula 1 is at a discount right now. It's simply $20 until our supply runs out. And the even bigger news is that it's coming back better than ever, because it's getting reformulated with even more components that we can talk to you about in a future podcast. So stay tuned for that new release of the new Formula 1. But Formula 1 right now, $20 until supplies run out. Formula 2 still at the low cost of $40. And that brings us to our staff spotlight of the month. And I wanted to give a special shout out to our PT assistant, Stacie de Leon. If you haven't had a chance to work or meet with her, phenomenal new talent that we've brought into our office. Literally, patients love her. And you know, when you bring on good people, it shows literally fairly immediately, because like people like to talk about when people are doing a good job, and it shows up in our Google reviews. So seeing her name pop up specifically about thanking Stacie for everything that she's done, and literally I think the difference that makes a difference with Stacie is like she's literally committed to getting to know you at a much deeper level to help you kind of cultivate like a meaningful relationship, to understand the deep why behind what it is that you're trying to accomplish with physical therapy. Now, a lot of people just think, hey, I just want to get out of pain, but it's more about what is this pain or injury stopping you from being able to do. And she is literally committed herself to being able to get you back to those activities and empower our patients to stay in the game, per se. Again, if you haven't had an opportunity to work with her, she's phenomenal. Get on her schedule. You'll see that everything I've said is spot on. And now we have our health tip and trick of the month, and we wanted to speak to these foot and ankle people that have been coming through our office. So if you've suffered broken ankle, you're dealing with fracture care, surgery recovery, just a sprained ankle, I wanted to talk to you about the best way to manage these type of issues. So if we're dealing with any of these problems acutely, very commonly, all of these things will have something in common, would be swelling. So swelling maintenance, swelling management is going to be the absolute key to early management of these type of ankle issues. So the original kind of price principles would apply. So literally giving it some protection, trying to avoid additional trauma that could cause you more inflammation, swelling, and pain. Types of rest. So rest could include just getting off of it, putting a boot on, putting a brace on, having a little knee scooter or crutches to help support and get some rest to the tissue to allow it to heal at a faster rate. Early phases. So first 24, 48, up to 72 hours, you'd want to consider doing some ice. So ice to mitigate some of the swelling that's occurring in the area, just to keep that under control. Compression, using an ACE wrap to kind of push some of that swelling back into the circulatory system to get removed, and then elevating to assist and use gravity to remove it. So ultimately, in that first acute phase, those principles still are kind of golden when we're dealing with ankles. When you are allowed, so obviously with our fractures, there's going to be a few and surgery cases, there's going to be a few considerations to really follow, particularly bone quality. So if you're given weight-bearing status of less than full weight-bearing, you got to listen, because ultimately you can't just look to calendar days. If a surgeon has put your bones back together, they'll know what the quality of that bone is. So as a student, I got to observe shoulder surgery and seeing a rotator cuff repair. Literally, the shoulder joint of this client that we were working with had the bone quality of what we would consider cheese. I mean, literally putting that anchor through the shoulder, the bone was incredibly soft. So not everybody has the same level of capacity where they're starting from. Not everybody has the same healing capacity. So speaking to your surgeon and having a clear picture of what your weight-bearing tolerances are. But ultimately, early weight-bearing, if possible, if safe, is absolutely key. So in Russia, one of their principles of recovery from fracture is basically cast it and weight bear. So if possible and it's safe, they want you early weight bearing because, and we've talked in previous podcasts about the SAID principle, SAID, specific adaptations to imposed demands. If we can get some weight bearing onto that leg, we can stimulate some bone growth and get the bone healing a whole lot faster. Secondarily, the beautiful thing about the PEMF device that we were using, PEMFs in the 1970s were used as bone stimulators. So for non-union fractures. So if we're dealing with some delayed bone healing, getting in for some PEMF therapy would be an absolute wonderful addition to your service. So if you're dealing with any kind of foot and ankle issues, we want to see you. We want to help speed up that recovery and get you back to doing what you were doing before you injured that sucker. So, and there it is, another podcast in the books. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram at FormFunctionPT. And keep an eye out on our new blog. So we've got a few out this month, a little more in depth as to what is Electrons Plus. Couple nice low back pain blogs, the real problem with sciatica and what to do about it, and working on producing another one of real stories of people who have been through the Electrons Plus treatment and the kind of results we're getting. So real patient stories coming out there. So check out the blog. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.